this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're not fired anymore. All right, first up is approval of the agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the agenda for June 10, 2025.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. We have an agenda. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I have a couple of things today. Under the minutes from last week, just something I thought we should clarify here. We've got the second page there, it's got the $1,000 for the scholarships for Whitehall students. And I was wondering who is going to decide who gets those? What kind of persons are we looking to get those? And, like who makes that decision?
In years past, basically, it's been the city manager and clerk will touch base with the schools, usually the social studies teachers, and ask if they've got any good candidates they want to send our way.
Okay. Is it like grade based or
No,
somebody
not
that
at all,
wants
just
to?
looking for people that have some sort of interest in local government.
Okay.
Scott, have we had an application form in the past?
I don't believe we have.
That'd be a good idea. Just real basic.
I had another thing that I guess will tie into the to the accounts payable on page 2 of 6. And it's not directly on here, I guess, but under the Michigan Municipal League membership, I was wondering, I got asked why we haven't made a contribution to the to the smart buoy. Because they were told that we were gonna do one, but I haven't seen it anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the status of that was. I think it was in communications, the letter of the request, but I don't know if council took any action on that.
That's what happened. It was, to my understanding, they sent a letter asking for support, asking for inclusion. And when we were discussing the budget, there was no one here to say, hey, I would like that to be included in the budget. So it didn't get included.
I don't recall seeing the letter, but that's,
Maybe when you were gone, it was submitted right when we were doing the work session for the budget.
I was here for that. Well, I don't remember that.
It probably would have been listed in my cover letter, because I
Oh.
usually list a number of items that were not budgeted. So it probably would have at least been in there. So it's, it's council's prerogative to go ahead and add that. I know we've adopted next year's budget, but there might be adequate funds yet in this year. So I think it was under $200. Was not a huge amount. Because next council meeting, we'll be bringing a year-end budget amendment back to the council. So if there's majority support to fund that, then staff will look to put that in the amendment.
I would
But
support that.
It was 800?
I think it was.
800, I think, is what they were asking.
Oh, that's a little more than a couple.
Right, that was specifically for, my understanding was to put up a website so that the data that is collected could be shared.
Would we be able to take a look at this next time, just to see what their budget is for it and how much of that cost they want us to share?
We can bring that back to council next meeting.
They did say that Montague was going to do 800. And I did have another thing here, and this. Can't read my writing or something earlier here. But what it was about was on the pass-throughs from TIFA and LDFA. That is on here somewhere. And my question on that was,
It's on page 4 or 6.
4 or 6.
When all water pass through, fire authority pass through, about halfway down the page.
Okay, so my question on that was, I guess I misunderstood something. I thought that anything going through, money going through TIFA and LDFA did not have to go to all of these different authorities. That's what had been said in here before.
No,
Is
those authorities capture all of those tax dollars from all of the taxing jurisdictions except the school district and the library. We capture that. In their budget, TIFA has historically returned $500,000 proportionately to all those taxing jurisdictions, and LDFA has been $100,000 to $200,000. State law requires that any money not used has to be returned, but we can accumulate some funds for major projects, not like 20 years down the road. But we've done that. We've saved money for a year or two to build up funds to pay cash for major projects. So we do capture it initially, but we do return a significant portion back to all of them.
Because the reason I remember this is because when I was bringing something up about not spending all of the TIFA money and all the LDFA money, I was told that the reason we do spend it all is because if we didn't, then it would have to go to those agencies. That's the way it was expressed here. It's been quite some time. So when I saw that, I was confused. And
Yeah, as I stated, if we don't spend it all, it has to be returned. And we could spend it all. I mean, TIFA and LDFA can certainly find ways to spend another $700,000. But we feel that to soften the blow on those taxing jurisdictions who are losing out on revenue, to return a good portion back to them. And that we would be living a little lower within our means.
okay. But then okay. I guess I understand better now.
Anything else?
I do, but I didn't know if you do. Are you finished?
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask if you could just do a brief overview, an explanation of what the pass-through meant, because it's big numbers on there and not altogether clear potentially. So you did that. Could you just do a quick summary of why that happens and where it's coming from?
That'd be good for the people that are here too, because there's hardly anybody in the city understands the TIFA and LDFA and the impact that it has on taxes and so on.
That's why you hire experts, right, to work on it. State law, and there's a number of them. There's brownfield redevelopment authorities. There's, I think, commercial rehab corridors, commercial corridors. There's downtown development authorities. There's local development finance authorities. They're all kind of the same creature created by the state of Michigan. What those do is they allow local communities to establish districts to reinvest tax growth into that district to continue that growth. So what it is considered is it's a tax increment financing. So when you create those districts, there's a base year. Let's just say a DDA has $10 million taxable value. As that taxable value increases, let's say next year it's $1 million, that DDA captures $1 million, and that's all of the other taxing jurisdictions' revenue. So we've got fire authority, we've got veterans, we've got, yeah, well, not the library on some of them. We can only do that if we have debt. So you capture it, you reinvest it to keep perpetuating that growth. What the law states is any revenues that are captured and not spent have to be returned proportionately to those taxing jurisdictions. We don't, and again, we can certainly come up with ways to spend another $700,000. But the position of the city since day one, back in 89, 90, is to lessen the blow on those other taxing jurisdictions. We would return a good portion back. I think it's probably about a third is what we return back to them. And part of that, about 51%, actually comes back to the city, because of that tax capture, we capture about 51% of our own money. So we do return it to all of them. We typically get thank you letters. In Muskegon County, I believe us and Muskegon Heights were the only two that routinely did that. I think Muskegon used to do it, and they still might. But again, it's kind of that, instead of we're taking all your money, we're going to take most of your money and give some of it back.
Thank you. Just one other quick thing with respect to the minutes. Would it be possible to amend my absence to say excused? I mean, absent but excused, because that's not clear to people, and I've gotten a lot of questions about why weren't you there, and just kind of looks like I may have blown the meeting off, and I didn't. We all talked about it, and you guys accepted
Make it
it.
an excused absence
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, absent and just excused or something. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Consent agenda is approved. Next up is messages. Let's start with the council. Tammy?
Oh, sure. Just wanted to mention that June 21st is the 12th annual citywide garage sale. And I know that because I looked it up, but I started this years ago with Karen Homlander, the clerk, when I was up in Pentwater at their community-wide garage sale, and I thought it was kind of a cool way to wander around and see the area. So I'm glad that it has survived and people are participating. So, and I think, Scott, if you do this one, you can still have your regular one every year too. Okay, yeah, and you do need to let them know by June 13th to get on the map, I think. So.
The map will be available online.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
That's all.
I was not able to attend, but saw pictures and heard good reports of the feet on the street last week. And just want to say kind of again, it's a great community tradition that started a few years ago and is carried on. So thank you guys if you came. If not, next year we'll be back with it. So a great tradition. That's all.
I have two things, and the first one is I know that last meeting we voted to accept the free installation of the flock surveillance system. But we did have a letter here from Ian Martin opposed to it, and we'd also had Mr. Ogden speak against it. He actually got a round of applause expressing his opposition to it. And I have been asked 3 times since that meeting by people who don't want it. And I'm just wondering if others on the council have heard positive or negative related to the flock system.
I haven't heard, but I don't want it.
I haven't heard anything. There was some stuff on Facebook about it, probably within the last week or two, since the last meeting, of people that were opposed to it. I haven't heard anybody that was for.
I've heard a few people for and a few people against, and I've been delving into it a little bit, and certainly there are some privacy issues, and the prospective big brother. On the other hand, one of the things I've been finding is how communities are dealing with some of the specific issues that people are concerned about. So I'm still kind of open mind on it, and it is just a trial at this point.
Okay. The next thing I had, this is, at our last meeting, we discussed a letter from Kathy Wood concerning the first quarter water bill that she thinks is incorrect. And Kathy also stood up and talked about it. Wanted to know if the city has done anything to forgive that or to write it off or whatever.
No, we have not. By ordinance, her option is to have the meter pulled and tested. If the meter is faulty, then we pay for that testing and we correct the bill. If it is accurate, then it's up to the property owner to pay for the cost of testing that meter. We have never found a meter that has sped up. Typically they slow down, which is to the benefit of the property owner. But that's our ordinance.
Okay, because until 5 days ago, I had never met or spoken with Kathy. But I went to her house, seeing if we could figure out what might have gone wrong there. In particular, I thought there might have been a house under construction near her that tapped into the line. It turned out that wasn't the case. There is a place nearby where I know some of the cement people have abused the area and washed down equipment, but that hasn't apparently been the thing either. Anyway, Kathy suggested at the last meeting that perhaps her meter malfunctioned or maybe the remote reading was wrong. And it was said that the company that makes the meters has never had a failure. And that's ridiculous. If anybody in the room here can think of a single manufactured product that's never malfunctioned, I'd like to know about it. I'll tell you what, I've got I don't have as many as I thought. But I have copies of her. There's copies of her water bill, and they plainly show that for each of the 4 quarters prior to the first quarter of this year, which is the one in question, she averaged 3,000 gallons of water a month. And then for the first quarter of this year, when you wouldn't expect a lot of water to be used, it's up to 9,000 gallons. Try to imagine, trying to figure out how that could be so radically different. This is Kathy's primary home, and she does leave occasionally for a few days or whatever. If she left the house one time for 2 weeks, and by accident she didn't jiggle the toilet, and so it ran a little bit, or there was a drippy faucet or something, that toilet might, I'm guessing it might waste a gallon of water an hour. If she was gone for 2 weeks, it comes to 362 gallons. And if it was dripping 2 hours a gallon, 2 gallons an hour, come to 672 gallons. Certainly not 6,000 gallons. And I'm asking that the city refund or credit her the value of 6,000 gallons of water. And if I have to, or if it works, I'd like to make a motion to that effect.
We have an ordinance that says what needs to be done. I mean, step 1 would be to get the meter checked.
She had a plumber in to check all of the
Okay.
stuff, but that didn't show
But
any
that
issues.
doesn't mean that the meter was tested to see if the meter's faulty. If the meter's faulty, yes, I mean, that would be something we would do. We need to start with step 1. I'm not one just to go out and say, okay, fine, yeah, we just need to refund her. We need to find out what the problem was and fix it before it becomes another problem somewhere else. if we have faulty meters, we need to work on it. Let's get the meter testing. If worse comes to worse, I would say we pay for the meter testing irregardless. That's step one as far as I'm concerned, not refunding money on something that we have no knowledge or background of what's going on. I'm not a plumber. Again, we have experts to deal with this.
Okay, I would recommend we do that then, that we pay to have the meter tested. I suspect it's gonna test fine. I don't know what the thing is, but for Pete's sake, we gave away $41,000 in water a year and a half ago. So to quibble about something that's gonna be like $60, I think is kind of ridiculous. But let's do the meter thing then. I'm done.
I'm glad to see the baskets up. I'm glad to see spring is here. I'm glad the temperatures are maintaining. That Deb's over there with her little muffler on. Just guy my size, I like at this temperature. It can stay like that. So yeah, that's all I got.
We need a motion to do the meter deal.
Well, you took my thunder away a little bit. I was gonna go back to that. I wasn't sure what the direction from council was. Because Councilmember Holmstrom had mentioned whether or not the city would pay for the testing of the meter.
Do you know what the cost of that would be? I mean,
Does the meter have to be removed?
you
The
test
meter
it?
would have to be removed, taken into a lab, and tested for accuracy.
I
And we've done that before.
We just swap out the meter with another one.
I suspect that the cost involved is gonna be more than
Yeah.
the bill.
Yeah, I think I was wrong on numbers earlier.
But
I can get you that number.
But if it happens again with hers, I mean,
But you're still not sure if
Yeah,
it's something
exactly.
internal or if it's the meter.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, for her peace of mind, it'd be nice to know if that meter's actually accurate or not. I mean, and we don't have next quarters, so I mean, or do we?
No, those will be going out shortly.
Yeah. So don't know. It could be sky high again, and we're right back in the same boat. We don't know what's going on or what happened. So.
But I think Councilmember Brown, I think there could be a motion in order to have the meter pulled at the city's and tested at the city's expense. Kind of flies a little bit in the face of the ordinance, but sometimes you do what you need to do.
I guess first thing I would like to see is, before we go to the expense and time of pulling a meter and having it sent and tested, I would like, to see somebody shut the water off at the house, not at the meter, at the house itself. There's usually a shut off in the house to shut the water off from coming from the main. And see if the meter still turns.
Well, I know we could try that.
Yeah,
Public
I mean,
Works
if
has been out there
it's
numerous
turning
times,
and there's a leak between the meter and the house.
but we did supply test dye. I think that's what we call it, right? Brenda? That you can put into the toilets, and that will tell you whether or not you have a leak. And that came back negative. I mean, we could try it. You're right. Maybe shut it off inside the house and see if the meter's still spinning.
Yeah, I mean, that would eliminate any possibility of there being a leak in the ground somewhere before it's getting to the house.
Either
That
that,
nobody can see because it's too deep.
either that, Scott, or we just switch the meter out and see what the meter reads. I mean, this next month. I mean,
No, it's just, isn't it just simpler to just go in the house,
could.
close the
You could
valve,
do that. I mean,
have
one
somebody
way or the
stand, have one of the DPW guys stand there and see if the meter's still turning. I mean, if it's using 9,000 gallons of
It's just
water, I would
It should
think,
be
I
spinning.
wouldn't think you'd have to look at it for very long to know
Yeah.
that it was flowing water.
Yeah.
But,
We can do that.
I mean, that just, to me, would be a simpler, or a no-cost way to, pretty much to check it.
Yeah, as long as we don't drop it, I'm fine whichever way we want to go.
Yeah, and then if we don't find anything there, then, then go ahead and check the meter, but,
I'd like to get some kind of idea as to what test of that meter would cost. I mean, any kind of lab testing is not cheap.
No, I mean, just pulling the meter
Right.
would, I would think, be a few $100.
Right.
Maybe just snap on, but just replace the meter, period. Once we see what the flow is, I guess. But again, I'm not flowing, so.
And the only other thing, we got direction where we're going with that then, Scott?
Little money.
Yes. we do. I was just seeing if Brian had any, Brian is watching from home.
Oh,
He's phoning in.
Phone a friend.
But he doesn't have a cost on that.
You hear me now?
yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing I had was from going to the street deal last weekend. I see cruising is back,
Yes.
and I don't know that it was ever brought before the city or not, but I had never heard anything about it until I was talking to the guys down. They had a booth down there with previous year's T-shirts they were trying to get rid of, and it appears cruising is back. So, and I'm glad it is, and it appears they have done a lot to try to improve the situation as far as they're going to have a burnout pit, and Chief's probably got a little bit of information on it, but
Yeah, we just had that confirmed with the chamber this morning, that cruising is back on, and there will be on Hanson Hill a separate area for burning out with, I guess, better pedestrian protection versus all the masses lining on the edge of the street and running out for candy. So it'll be a safer version.
and I hope it all works good this year so we can continue it. I've always liked seeing all the old cars, so since I'm old too.
That's when you start relating your age to cars.
I had one of those.
Yep.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Steve.
Yeah, couple things. The fishing tournament was over the weekend on Saturday, and a whole lot of kids had a real good time. And everybody got a fishing pole and a bag full of lures and things like that. And the kids just have a riot with that. There's a whole bunch of kids down there, starting at age 3 up to age 16. And it was a good deal. The White Lake Sport Fishing Association puts it all on, and it's all free. And they make their money at the fish boil, which happens like in the second or third week of August every year. And that's what they fund that with. And that's a really nice deal for grandparents and parents to go along with their kids and watch and have a good time, and free pizza and all that stuff. A lot of fun.
I think they do that during the free fishing weekend, isn't it?
It is the free fishing
Okay, so
weekend.
there's
Yeah.
no license needed for the kids or the parents on this.
Well, the kids don't need a license
Yeah.
till they're 17,
Yeah.
so they can fish for free anyway. And anyway, then the question I have is for Brenda. The count on,
Yes.
is that over now on
Yes.
deer, on whether to hunt deer in the city limits?
Yeah, I would say we're probably officially over. We're shut-offs were happening, so. And I don't know the exact count, but those in favor were slightly more than those against, so.
Okay. And so we have to look at, when that's finalized, we have to look at appointing a committee, and I would volunteer for that, to figure out how we're gonna administer this thing. I was thinking that maybe Jeff, who's also a deer hunter, might be interested in doing something like that, and I don't know how many people we need. On a committee, we can look at what Montague's got and see how theirs works, and we don't need to do it just like theirs, but come up with some kind of a plan for figuring out who gets to hunt what area, how many areas there are, and all that. So, I don't know when we get it total. By the time you send out the next
Yeah, I have it back at my desk, but
Okay.
yeah, I
No
didn't bring it
problem.
with me, yeah.
Then the other thing on deer, people don't understand this. I'm gonna read a little thing from the Cuffs and Collars from the Michigan Outdoor News. This is District 9, which is down Detroit area. CO Joseph Deppen received a complaint about a man in Macomb feeding deer in his yard. Back in January, CO Deppen received the initial complaint involving the same individual and gave him a verbal warning to stop feeding deer. CO Deppen arrived back at the residence and could see a salt block and piles of corn throughout the yard, with deer actively feeding on them. CO Deppen knocked on the door and the same man answered. CO Deppen asked if the man remembered him from their interaction back in January. The man said, "Yes, I remember you," CO Deppen said. "Regarding the previous complaint, what did I tell you about feeding deer back in January?" The man said, "You told me to stop, but that corn and salt out there are for the rabbits and squirrels now, not the deer." The man was issued a citation for baiting and feeding the deer. So I know if there's people in the city that like to feed them for whatever reason, whether they are just like to see the deer or whether they're trying to think they're keeping them off the road or eating their corn rather than eating their bushes, which I think it would just attract them to your yard, and then they're kind of creatures of opportunity. They'll eat whatever is there. Doesn't matter if you feed them corn or not, they're going to still eat your bushes if they like them. And it's just, or, there are people who are against hunting and would prefer that if they can keep the deer away from hunters, they will feed them to keep them away from hunters. Now, I don't know if anybody's of that mindset, but it is against the law because there's apparently a disease called chronic wasting disease that can get spread by piles of deer food and deer congregating in the same place and all eating from the same area. So whether you believe that or not, it's another story. Actually, I don't, but it is the law. So I just want people to realize, maybe your neighbor has got a beef with you about something and you're feeding the deer, he might turn you into the conservation department. So you gotta think about all these things. If you're putting corn out, even if it's for the birds, you gotta know that you could get a ticket. So I just wanted to bring that up.
If I could add to that also, I talked with somebody that lives on Gibbs Street, and they said that there is at least one person on the south side of Gibbs, which would be east of, I'm not sure, it's that last section that doesn't have any roads coming off it. There's at least one person on the south side of Gibbs that is feeding deer, according to what somebody told me. So
Call a rappel.
I know of another one too, and actually I can watch them from my back porch, and I kind of enjoy watching them because of ducks and geese and everything about them too. But it is the law, nevertheless, whether you enjoy it or not, and you could get in trouble. So people need to recognize that. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. The Feed on the Street was a wonderful event. It was a great turnout. I think it was bigger this year than it was last year. Certainly had more food trucks. Look forward to it happening again.
We need more garbage cans.
Garbage cans. Yeah, they were full.
Yeah. Pete was trying to change the one out. The fire chief.
Yeah.
And one that was over by closest to Hanson Hill, where everybody had their tables and chairs set up at. That one had stuff coming out the top of it.
There was a lot of trash there, but I did notice that when it was over, the next morning, that area was immaculately clean. It was, our DPW and the participants did a fantastic job of cleaning up after themselves. That's a wonderful thing about this community. We care about our town and pick up our trash and put on a great event. All right, next up is public comment. Anyone wishing to make a public comment? You know this guy. You know this guy.
Tim Sear, Muskegon County Commissioner for District 1. I just want to, I've got a new, it's not new, but it's the last senior millage annual report. And basically this annual report tells about, everything that they're spending money on, the senior millage dollars, the participant counts, each township or municipality, how many people they have participated in the senior millage funds. And then it has definitions of the services and the activities that go on for, with these senior millage dollars. So I've just got a few copies of these. You can pass those around. And that's really all I have, and I have to make my exit to Ring River to my next meeting.
Thank you for that information. Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. I don't believe we have any old business.
No, sir.
We have new business, Hokey Pokey Alley sale request.
I will move that we approve the closure of the alley by the Hokey Pokey, June 20th through the 22nd, and September 5th through 7th for their alley sale.
Second.
Been moved into second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no.
I got something for that.
What would you have?
It would be really nice if all that alley sales going on. I remember as a kid, bring back sidewalk sales. Do it at the same time. For the businesses out there. It would be nice. I remember those vividly. They were so cool back in the day.
Does someone want to amend the,
It's actually an MDOT regulated
Yeah.
activity.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
Would the sidewalks be deep enough to put up tables and stuff anyway? I don't know if they would be. Might be.
Yeah.
MDOT owns the sidewalks. All right, so that's going to take place. Next up is public comment. Judy.
Hello, I'm Kathy Russell, and I'm here to represent Colby's Hokey Pokey. And I want to thank the council for the approval of our alley sale closure request. It's been a while since we've been able to do one. COVID shut that all down. And our customers have been requesting it. And so we're looking forward to having them back and doing fun things in the alley. We will be closing the alley around 3 p.m. on Friday because we don't need it the whole day, but that gives us opportunities for our tenants to set up their tents. And then we will be shutting down probably by about 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon and moving the barricades out of the way. So thank you to the DPW for bringing us barricades, and we'll do this again in September. September 1, we may not need the Sunday, but we'll see. It depends a lot on weather. When it's cold, nobody comes. But we do appreciate the opportunity to do this again, and we thank you. Any questions for me?
I do have a question. Are we approving this for both dates, or are we approving this for?
Yes.
Okay.
Debbie said both dates,
Okay.
and that
I
was
want
in
to
my
make sure
request.
that everyone knows that this is for both dates.
Correct.
It's a great event. I love seeing all the people come to town. And
Well, and the request about the sidewalk sales, Scott is correct. MDOT limits on what we can do out there in front. And it's sad, but
really is.
But you know what? There are back ways in the alley, etc.
Right.
So anyway, thank you very much.
All right. Any other comment? Anybody got anything to say?
Anything new on the garden?
Yeah, we submitted a park permit to Amber this afternoon, and as soon as she fills that out, we'll have her coordinate the details with Brian.
Great.
So that's moving forward.
Perhaps we could have a sidewalk sale in one of the parks or alongside over here. If people are interested in bringing tables out for something like that.
Can I
an
just
idea.
comment, can I comment from here?
Yes.
I mean, as a retailer, that's a hard thing to
Too
do.
much.
You're, the alley, or not the alley sale, but the citywide garage sale kind of addresses that for individuals, and it's fun. I mean, we kind of coordinated knowing that that date was going to be, people are already gonna be out looking for bargains, so. But a retailer, they're not gonna haul stuff to the park, I'm so sorry to say.
We did have the, I don't even remember what we called it. We used to do sidewalk sales in North Mears parking lot years back. And pretty much the only consistent thing was bed sheets. But it didn't go over so well
Good
and,
sheets, too.
pardon?
They were good sheets, good Egyptian sheets. I remember those.
So we did try that. I think we provided spaces, we barricaded it off, people would bring in their tables, but it just, I think after 2 or 3 years, we struggled to make that viable and it just didn't take off.
I think it was a flea market,
Yes.
even though that's a weird name.
For bed sheets.
I didn't mean that, but now that you mention it, yes. No, but it's just like when you say a flea market, you're like,
All right, with no further comments, thank you all for coming and